Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. This is Jason, host of Fighting Words Financial, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the electric vehicle market and some electric vehicle stocks. This is something I talk about frequently on my channel, but I haven't done much of that lately because there's a lot of other things going on. But there's some interesting things going on in the background and one or two things that I think have been vastly overlooked here that we need to talk about. And I do want to say that I think that electric vehicles have absolutely reached a tipping point. It happened last year, and a few people noticed it. And if you're one of those folks who thinks this is not happening, you need to get on the right side of history here before you get left behind. So let's talk about what's going on in California. Now, I realize a lot of people hate California, not sure why, but let's talk about the energy industry here in California, kind of how important it is, and a lot of people don't realize this, how important the energy industry is here in California to the rest of the United States, and why there's actually some worry about what's going to happen with the energy industry, not just in the long term, but in the immediate term, 5 to 10 years here. So let's talk about those numbers just a little bit here. So we're all aware that California is a pretty big state. It's about 12% of the population of the United States with 39.4 million, largest workforce in the United States, largest gross domestic product in the United States by a pretty large margin as well. And the gross domestic product from the manufacturing sector is actually the largest in the United States, meaning that California manufactures more than the rest of the United States as well. Vehicle miles traveled, it is number one. And that kind of surprised me. I thought other states like Texas might be higher in vehicle miles traveled, even though they have a smaller population. So look, crude oil reserves, we only have about 4.2% of the known crude oil reserves in the United States, but we're the 7th largest producer of crude oil in the United States. And in terms of natural gas producing wells, we're pretty far down there. But in terms of crude oil refining capacity, California represents about 10.1% of the total capacity of the United States. But as a state, it is the 3rd largest producer refiner of oil in the entire United States, which is a big deal. So that's one of the things we wanted to talk about. Now, what I wanted to do was move on to this article here from Barron's, and let's take a look at what some analysts are saying right now. They're saying that gasoline sellers could struggle as California electric vehicles sales hit a tipping point. Now, if you guys recall, in a couple of past videos, I've stated that on my drive to work, it seems like 1 out of 10 vehicles is an electric one. That was an anecdotal observation on my part, certainly not backed by data, and could very well have been wrong. It looks like it probably wasn't wrong in this case. The United States is slowly shifting to electric vehicles, but California is already well on its way to the future, according to Avi Saltzman, who wrote this article. New car sales show that about 12.4% of vehicle sales in the state of California last year were electric, compared to 3.75% overall. So that is roughly 3 times the rate of the rest of the United States, according to Matt Portillo, research director at Tudor Pickering Holt Co. This was above the expectations of 10%. So Californians buy a lot of vehicles every year. They buy 2 million vehicles a year, which is more than what people in France, the UK, and Canada buy. And let's put that in perspective as well. France, the UK, and Canada, maybe not Canada, but France and the UK actually have electric vehicle sales higher than the rest of the United States as well. So in 2021, the state registered about 250,000 electric vehicles. Portillo projects that that rate will climb even more, with 15% of the vehicles sold this year expected to be electric. I think that number is probably going to be higher just because this article is written, actually the underlying study this article is written on came out about a month and a half ago. I don't know when the research was done, but he claims that it could reach closer to 30% of the market by 2025. Once again, I think it's actually going to be a much higher percentage of market by 2025, as many of the global automakers look to target this market with new electric vehicle product launches over the coming years. Like I said earlier, it's just a fact of the last 50 or 60 years that new trends tend to start in California and move out across the United States. And if a product can be successful here in California, that proves it can be successful in other places. All kinds of challenges with the grid, all kinds of challenges with charging. California is vitally important to leading vehicle maker Tesla. Vehicle registration data from Ward's Automotive shows a substantial number of Model 3 and Model Y sales last year in California. Portillo noted. He also expects that Ford and General Motors are going to focus on California as they introduce new electric vehicle models in the coming months. Honestly, that would not be a surprise to me. It wouldn't be a surprise to me also if Texas receives a lot of attention from Ford and General Motors, as the Ford F-150 by far, without really any challenge over the last 40 years, has been the best-selling vehicle in the United States, and the Ford Lightning is looking to replace some of that as we move forward. And I think really breaking into that truck market is going to be the thing that kind of makes everyone end up buying an electric vehicle. So they're likely, Ford and GM is likely to push a lot of that product to West Coast markets, Portillo said in an interview. On the flip side, the growth in electric vehicle sales is bad news for West Coast refiners, which, like I pointed out, actually make up a much larger portion of our economy than a lot of people think. Those West Coast refiners who depend on California demand are going to suffer in the immediate and long term. Portillo expects gasoline demand in the state of California to peak next year and then go downhill from there. It could fall to 865,000 barrels a day by 2030 from basically $1 million or 991,000 barrels a day in 2023. So I find that very interesting that he's actually already projecting peak oil here in California. Now remember, yes, every time I make one of these videos, I get all these comments about how oil is used in all things produced in the vehicle. It's used in mining, lithium, all that stuff. Yeah, but at the end of the day, only 26% of end petroleum use in the United States does not have something to do with transportation, right? It's almost all transportation related. And of course, we export a lot of petroleum byproducts. We use a lot of petroleum byproducts. But transportation, and particularly light vehicle transportation, meaning cars and trucks that people drive every day, that is 49% of oil consumption in the United States. I don't know a lot of companies that can survive on 50% of their business. A lot of companies cannot. And I think that we're probably looking at a pretty massive consolidation in the oil industry over the next 5 to 10 years as these companies kind of struggle to survive and they have to consolidate operations in order to continue. So companies with notable California exposure include Chevron, Marathon Petroleum, PBF Energy, Phillips 66, and Valero Energy. So Portillo also makes the point, and this is something that I wasn't really thinking about, is that with this dynamic, there's also been a significant increase in renewable diesel supply. Biomass diesel is expected to reach 55% of California's diesel pool by 2025, and he thinks that the market may become relatively challenged over the medium term for regional refiners. I tend to agree with that assessment. Anyway, folks, this is just one more little piece of evidence to suggest that we have already passed the tipping point in terms of electric vehicle sales. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, can the grid handle it? A lot of people can say, what about taking 45 minutes to charge my vehicle? There are entire videos that I could do on either one of those subjects, but let us just say that this is happening, whether you like it or not. Get on the right side of history, folks, or get left behind. That is what I have to say today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you.